Oh, and I pinned it. Okay, good. Welcome everyone to the Hourglass drawing. This is sponsored by the Village Library of Wrightstown. I want to thank them as always for picking my projects. I have some new summer programs coming out too. Probably I was trying to hit for March 15th, but it's probably going to be like the weekend after the 20th. But I know we already have some stuff picked out. But anyway, I will send those regardless. So this is being recorded. I will send this out to Karen and Rebecca later tonight when it's finished, and they'll send it out when they are able to. So again, we just need a number 2 pencil if you have a 2B, and then also either a 4B or a 6B pencil, or even a charcoal pencil, something that is dark. If you don't have that, it's okay. A number 2 pencil will work just fine. And then our size drawing paper is a smaller one. It's 5.5, or actually 8.5 inches down, 5.5 inches across. So it's really half of a sheet of printer paper. So if you have printer paper, that's fine too. So let's get started. So we're going to start, if you have more than the number 2 pencil, we are going to start with the number 2 pencil because we're going to start lighter. And I'm going to go inward a bit more closer so you can see. There we go. Okay, so what we are going to draw first is the shapes, and we're going to actually draw the hourglass first. And so what we're going to do is we're going to draw almost like a figure 8, and we're going to go in the middle of our page here. So if I were to go in the middle of my page, maybe if I were to, you can almost even half it like this. And then I will know to start sort of in the middle. And then what we're going to do from there, you want to actually, if you want to put a line in the middle of your page, that might be helpful for you. And then from there, we're going to make what's going to kind of look like a balloon. Oops. Let me do that a little better here. So we're going to go upward and to a point, and the same on the other side. But what we're going to do is we want to make sure this line is very small. So I should have started out with that. Sorry about that. This line in the middle should be very small, maybe about, I don't know, an inch, maybe. And then it's going to kind of balloon out at the top. To a point. You want to try to get both sides equal. And that's going to be the hardest part of this, trying to get the both sides sort of equal. And so what you might want to do is you're basically going to balloon out your shape at the top and the middle of your drawing. So I'm doing that again. So it's sort of shaped like this. Let me make that a little darker so you can see. And then you're going to repeat the same thing on the bottom, except you're going to make a little bit of a curve. On either side before you start that shape. And then when you come down to the bottom, same thing, you're going to be making a small line, and then you're going to balloon out your shape. Now this is going to take some trial and error, and just take your time. I'm going to give everybody some time to make that shape. Okay. So remember, the top part is going to come sort of to a point, right? The two sides. But the bottom is flat. The bottom of the hourglass, in a sense. Okay. So now, once we have that, we're going to start up at the top, and we're going to make 2 small lines on either side. And I'm going to go really close so that you are able to see what I mean. There we go. So these are the 2 small lines, because that is the top portion that goes through the wooden area here of the hourglass. And so once you make those 2, we're then going to make a line across for the top portion of the hourglass. And you're probably wondering, well, how far do I go? So you obviously, you want to make sure to go past the round parts at the top of your hourglass. Sorry, I'm always fixing my cylinder here. There we go. Every time I think it's out wide enough, I look at it on the other side and go, no, it can be wider. That's better. But again, getting back here to this, your bottom line is going to go out and maybe out just a little wider. And then what we want to do is we're actually going to make sure that that part is going to be curving enough so that there's enough room to have the hourglass. So what we're going to do after making this line, we're going to come up here, and we're first going to make a little bit of a straight line. So we're basically, what we're doing is we are making this line a very light straight line. And we want to make sure that it doesn't bump too much up next to our hourglass. And we're going to come all the way down a little bit past the bottom part of the hourglass. And we're going to round it off a little bit. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So when you're ready, you'll do the same thing, making 2 straight lines, because this is going to be your, the lines on the other side that contain the hourglass. And just take your time. I will give you some more time in order to make these lines. You want to try and make sure that these are the same length, or I should say, if you follow this one, go across, make sure that this one isn't like all the way down here. But we're just doing the basics of those shapes so far. And when you're done with that, we're going to make a cylinder at the bottom. So basically, our cylinder is going to start back here. And so we're going to make what looks a bit like a curved line. And then we're going to bring it outward. And then it's going to come out towards us like this. This is the base. So it's a cylinder, but on either side, it's a little more flat for now. So what I mean is, you see how this side is flat, this side is flat for now. And already we have our base. And then we're going to come up here, and we're now going to create the top part of the wood. So remember to extend it a little past, kind of like your columns, even though they're not columns. I'll call them columns for now, like that. And now you have the top portion. Now you want to make sure, remember that that you're drawing this lightly, because we'll be doing some erasing. I always make mine darker on Zoom so you can see it. And so we are going to now start back up at the top, and we're going to form this part just a little bit better. So what we're going to do on either side here, we're going to curve those. So basically, they're going to be round like that. And you're going to do the same on the other side. So we kind of made it almost square-like, and now we're going to round it off. Like so. Now, once you have that, we're going to come up here in the middle. And remember, we have this sort of two lines on either side of the hourglass. We're going to extend those up because they're coming through the wood. And you're just going to see a little portion of it. Like that. So it should match up with the two lines you drew here. And then you're also going to draw it inside the hourglass. Like that. So it should be that shape. So now it's inside the hourglass. It's also above. And then we're going to draw two more shapes like that. One over here, one over here, because again, that is also the top part of the sides. And it's also going to be a little bit curved. Like so. And all of a sudden you have the start of an hourglass. And then we're going to get fancy on the side here. And what we do on this side, we're going to also replicate on this side. And we're going to go slow because it's always more difficult to repeat something on the other side. All right, so first thing we're going to do, basically these straight lines serve the purpose of the inside or the outside shape of what we are going to be accomplishing. So we're going to imagine like this is almost like a block of wood, and we're going to chisel out the actual shape of it. Okay, so we're going to imagine like we're sculptors, but we're doing it with our pencil. So, and this is going to help us stay straight. And that's why we did it this way. So at the top, we're going to make two more of those shapes, kind of like this, rounded on the side. So remember, we're going to be erasing these lines. So what you do here, we're now going to do over here. And so see, what I'm going to do is erase away. Start erasing away the line as I'm creating it. But I'm making that shape inside, or the width of that line for now. And then we're going to start making the next shape, which is also a curve, almost like a, kind of like a bauble, I guess. It's curved on the bottom because of the way, the volume of it. And again, try to match it up as best you can with the one on the left. Like as far as the shape, curviness. And now we're going to jump down to the bottom. So we are going to repeat the same pattern that we did here and here, down here. Except this is going to come inward. So we start the bottom part. And then we curve the top part. And we're going to do the same on the other side. This is where you may have to make some adjustments to the size or where it is in relation to the other one on the other side. And then erase any lines that no longer belong there. Okay, and now we've got the middle. So the other part we're going to do is right where this middle section is, a little bit above it, we're going to make a part that's going to look like this. So again, here's our middle. We're going to go to the left first, a little bit above it, and we're going to make a curve like this. And then we're going to do the same on the other side. That is the bottom part of the first cylinder part, sort of like that curved part. I don't know what you call those. It's kind of like a flute. It's like a flute looking shape. Okay, so here we're going to make a shape that's going to look like this. See, and we make it on the inside of those lines. So it's a little pointy on either side, going down to a curve. Pointy a little bit, just a little bit. And now from here, we start to make the one side, and it's going to curve inward and then come back to curve upward. So in the middle, it gets thinner and then it goes out on the side. And then you can erase the two lines. You're going to do the same on the bottom. You may have to extend your line a little bit outward at the top. You go inward, it gets thinner at the bottom. Like that. Kind of reminds me of like the older kitchen chair legs. And you're going to repeat that on the other side. So again, it goes inward and then bottoms out when it meets this part here, and then does the opposite going down. Okay, we're almost there, and then we get to start doing the shading. And some tweaking. So now we're going to go down here at the bottom, and we're going to make this cylinder a little more realistic. And so what we're going to do is we're going to come down here, and we're going to make a curved line, like a smile. And it's going to be very close to in between these two areas. So curving all the way to the other side. And we're going to change the side of these two areas, just a little bit. So I need for you to erase the two lines we made. And then you're going to bring those lines down a little bit further. To match up again with this bottom portion. But we're going to make the two lines a little wider in the front so that it almost comes to a point here in the middle. Not really, but it's coming to a rounded point. So again, we are manipulating the lines for this curve. And at first we erased either side and made those lines a little bit curvy rather than straight. And then here, we wanted this curve, both sides, to kind of come inward, almost like to, I want to say a V, but it doesn't look like that. And it's not a very pointed point. It's just pointier. It comes out a little bit. Hopefully that makes sense. And then we're going to start drawing in some of the shapes, the shadow shapes with this pencil still. And then we are going to be switching over to our darker pencil if you have it. And again, if you don't have that darker pencil, you can still continue with the number 2. Okay, so let's now go inside here. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw the center portion. And so we're going to come in and we draw 2 more curved lines. And then we draw a cylinder very similar to the shape that is next to it on either side, like this one and this one. Okay, so again, we're inside. We curve just a little bit on either side with that line. And now we're going to make kind of like an oval shape. Like what's on either side over here. And then after that, you're also going to make a curve again, because basically on the other side is another one of these. And you're going to be able to see some of it, but not all of it, because on top of it is going to be the sand. But so here is one of those. And if you were to, let's imagine that we're going to bring this down, but we're not drawing it. And then we're going to come down here. And first, what we're going to do is we're going to make this shape over here. So a line in the middle, and then you're going to kind of follow this shape with another line, like so. This is the start of the shading. And as usual, you're going to do the same thing on the other side. And I will give you time to do this. I just want to kind of show it to you. And these are light lines for right now. And then in the middle, you're going to make that shape again that looks very similar to this shape. So we start to curve and go down to the bottom, but we're not going to go down to the bottom because there's sand there. And we're going to stop about right here. And then we're going to make our sand. That's going to be a little bit on top. I want to give everyone enough time for this part. Okay, so we're going to start drawing in some of the shadow shapes inside the hourglass. So basically, when we come up here, we're going to make another curved line coming from up here. And basically what we are drawing is the white portion. So I'm going to show this up close. So we're going to draw this shape right here. So I'm going to put it right up against it. And so it's going to curve around. Like that. And we're going to draw the next part, which is going to be the white space right here. So it's already kind of drawn, but we're just going to make a line come here. So this is the white part of the inside the shadow. It's the shine. So that's what this shape is. And it goes up against the other part here that we already drew. And then we're going to draw down here, kind of a line with a point like that. And underneath it, another line. And then for now, we're going to add 2 more white lines, white curved lines. Here's one. And we have another one close to it. And then we're going to make a line like this, real close to the edge of the hourglass, but we're going to be shading there. And then we're going to go to the bottom. And we're going to kind of sketch out some of this. Actually, I think we're going to leave this and we're going to start off, I think, in the wooded area. And so at this point, you can do a combination of using this pencil and also your charcoal pencil, or because we're actually going to use both, or you can go a lot lighter with your charcoal pencil. I like to do a combination. I like to start off using the number 2 pencil and then taking the charcoal or 6B. I have a 6B here, or 4B, whatever you have that's darker. And again, if you don't have it darker, that's okay. When it's time to go darker, we'll just press on a little harder with the number 2 pencil. But let's still continue using for now the number 2 pencil, and we're going to start shading. And so what we're going to do is we are going to shade this very light over here. We're going to do it on all 3 at the top. So just very light shading from side to side. And then we're going to go on the wooded part. And what we're going to do is we're going to shade on this side, going from left to right, and we're going to leave in the middle some white space. And let's do that on either side. So I'm curving. Do you see the way I'm shading? I made sort of like a curve the way I shaded. And now we are going to shade a little bit more right here, very light, and on the opposite side as well. And now we're going to leave the top part alone for now, and we're going to go on the left side. We're going to now shade down this whole side. So we're going to start off on the bottom of this shape. And again, we're shading very lightly. And then we go up top a little bit. We have a little bit of a darker line of shading here. So I'm going to go really close. So see how that's a little bit darker. And now we're going to start to make a shape of shading. And so we're going to kind of create like a shape like this. And you're doing this very lightly. So see that shape? And then you're going to shade in there. Again, just very lightly and quickly, because eventually that's going to be darker. And then we're going to come on either side here and just shade like this for now. And we're going to draw another shape in this section. So again, these are very light shapes. We want a little bit of white, the white of the paper, to show through on this side and this side. And then we come into the other section here and we just shade a little bit like that. And we're going to do the same in that bottom one. And then we're going to come back up here in this little section here, and we're going to shade a little in the middle. Again, this is light. And we're going to do the same in the next section. So we're going to leave this side alone because this side is darker. And we're going to use our darker pencil or go darker for that. But we're going to come inside here and we're going to start doing a light shading. And then what we'll do is we will switch to our darker pencil and create the darker areas. So continuing on with this pencil, we're going to come inside here. And first we're going to shade this top part just a little bit like that. So it's like a light gray. And then we are going to start shading inside here a light gray. So you're going to shade till about down here, where it's going to kind of come a little bit down to the middle part. And we're going to go in the middle. And shade too. And this is a kind of a quick shading for now. This is not how it's going to end up looking when we're done. We just want to get it a little bit shaded in between the parts that are supposed to be more of a white. And we're going to come down to the bottom portion here, and we're going to lay in some light gray as well. And so what we're first going to do is we're going to make sort of what looks like a curve starting here and going to through this section and then stopping here. So that curve, smaller here and larger on this side. And then we're going to do some shading inside these two little sections here. So where I'm bouncing my pencil back and forth, we're going to shade inside here. And what we're going to do is we're going to create like a side triangle on either side, a shaded side triangle, very little. So there's one and there's one. And then we're going to come down here and we're going to follow this line down to the side and have it be a little bit pointy. And then we're going to make another curved line, like right up until the sand. Here's the sand here. And we're going to kind of make a little bit of a shape like this and fill that in with light gray. And we're also going to go on the inside and we're also going to make sort of a very light shaded, almost like a triangle shape. And then it's going to split. And this is very light. So it's almost like we're making pieces of shading. And you're not going to shade up until the bottom part because that's the glass. And we want to make it look like that on the inside, you know, it's inside glass. So we kind of make this line here right before we get to the bottom of the hourglass. We're going to make another curved line starting here, and this one's really light, and it's going to come over to here, and we're going to make some shading on this right side. So it's going to kind of look like a curved shaded area with two curved points at the bottom of that shaded area. So see here where we're making the glass, the shading on the glass a bit. And we have another curved shading area after that going towards the right side. And I'm pointing to that. So this section here. Okay, and so now we're going to put our number 2 pencil down for a bit, and we're going to pick up our darker pencil. So here again, if you only have the number 2 pencil, we're going to be shading darker. And one of the first things we're going to be doing is we're now going to be outlining the drawing. So you're going to take your darker pencil, like I said, charcoal, 6B, 4B, if you have it. And so we're going to be outlining the entire drawing. So starting at the top, all the shapes, outlining as if we are creating a, almost like a coloring page. And just take your time. I like to sometimes turn my drawing if I'm able to. So for now, we are outlining all of the lines, not the ones inside the hourglass, but everything else. We're going to outline the base too. So the glass, again, just take your time doing the best you can with following the lines that you created. Okay, and we're going to start shading. So we're going to start laying in the darker shades. And so when we come at the top here, we're going to shade in the middle. And we're going to do that on the left. And we'll do the same on the right side. So it should look like that. So now what you'll have is you'll have a darker shading in the middle. And then on either side, because we shaded earlier, it's a little bit lighter. Now in this section, we're going to actually shade a little bit darker at the top. Because that is showing the top, a little bit of the top part of that area. And now we're going to get into this section here. And so we're going to start going dark, kind of around the whole area, almost as if we are, well, we're going to be shading within the lines, going all the way around. And up top as well, again, inside the lines. And then we're going to come in the middle and we're going to go really dark. Oops, let me fix my camera. It's picking up. There we go. So we're going to go darker, kind of in the middle here, like this. Almost black, but it's more like charcoal gray. And then we're going to start getting lighter as we are going toward the edge. And you'll do the same on the other side. So it's going to look a little strange. There's going to be kind of a dark center there, and then a little bit lighter. But then you're going to make it almost like a gradient, where starting from the middle, you did it really dark. And then you're going to go to the left and do it a little less dark. And you're going to keep going a little bit less dark until you get to the end there, and you're going to leave a little bit of the white space of the paper. So again, it's going to go from really dark in the middle. As you go over to the left, a little bit less dark, a little bit less dark. The white of the paper, and then it's a little bit darker here on the end. And you're going to repeat that on the right side as well. So again, you go dark. As you move over to the right, you're still dark, but you're getting a little bit less. So you're easing up on the pressure of your pencil. And then you continue going toward the edge there, but you get really light and you leave some white of the paper. But then at the end, there might be a little splurge of some dark here. So you press on your pencil again. And you just made a gradient. for the top part. And it should look pretty good. And then we're going to come on the inside, and then we'll go on the outside. So coming at the glass, the parts that we started making shaded, we're going to go shade on top of it even more, at least in some parts of it. We have the lighter shading down, but now we're going to add some dark shading. So we're going to come up to this section, and we're going to go on the left, and we're going to go at the top, and then we're going to go right up against the line again and go all the way down to the center part with some shading. So again, what I'm doing is I'm kind of tracing again inside the dark line. We're going to get ready to do another one. So starting again at the top, we trace around where we created that line. We're going to come down again toward the bottom, or I should say halfway right here. And then we're going to fill the bottom portion with some darker shading. And it's going to kind of come a little bit to a point going down here, and a little bit of a curve like that. And then you're going to make a dark curved line to now separate this top portion against this bottom portion of the hourglass. So we came here and we now made a dark curved line. So we're going to do a little bit down here, shading, and then we'll come back up. So in the middle here, we're going to shade a little bit lighter. But we're first going to add one more line like this. And then from there, we're going to shade in this section, almost like a triangle or an upside down triangle. And then we're going to come on the right side here in the middle, and we're going to make it darker, starting right here. And again, we're going to kind of go inward like this. And we're going to go up top. But we're going to leave a little part right here unshaded, or there's that lighter shading that's there. And when you're ready, you're going to make 2 dark lines here and here, here and here. You're going to come to this side, and just like we made shading on the inside, you're going to make kind of a little line of shading like this. But when it gets to the bottom, you're going to kind of curve in that shading, and you're going to get darker going up. But you want to leave, remember this sliver of white here? You're going to leave that sliver. And then we're going to shade these 2 sections, and we're just going to kind of lightly shade on the underside here, and then on the other side just a little bit, so that we leave another sliver of white in between. And then in this, you're going to shade kind of in the middle, straight down. And then on either side, you're going to kind of trace around with shading, kind of like what we did on the other ones. So again, in the middle, you do some shading straight down. And then on either side, you do some shading in the middle. And then there's a top little section that you just want to lightly shade in above the oval. So again, down the middle, and then around the oval and on either side. And we're going to get a little bit darker and make this line here, extend it out to the left so that there is just a little sliver of the white paper showing. See, there's that little sliver showing. And then we have one more section in here that we're just going to get really dark with. We're going to go back up in here, and we're going to shade this part really dark, just a little, kind of a little side triangle of shading dark. And then we'll come down to the bottom on the right, and we're going to shade just a little bit dark as well, like that. And that's going to bring us to finish up this section. So the sections that we have left are now just this bottom half, the two sides, and the base. And then we're all done. So let's get to it. We're going to come again over here to the bottom. And we're going to make, first, we're going to shade this middle section that's going to the sand. And so first we're going to make kind of a light line going like this. And then we're going to shade to the left of that line like so. So it's a little bit lighter than the original line. And we can then outline that line on the outside. So again, we made a line in the middle. We skipped over this curve. We shaded kind of light to medium. And then we outlined the line on the left. And we're going to repeat that same process on the right. We'll make another line so that now there's a little bit of some white showing of the paper. We shade just a little and then we outline. We're now going to outline our sand. So those are the two sweeping lines on either side. We're going to make a little bit of some darker shading in the sand right at the top, like that. And remember, we made sort of some separated lines. So again, we're going over it a little bit darker with this pencil. And then at the bottom, we're actually going to make a darker line so that it looks like, you know, you can see the glass around it like this. And then we're going to go on the right side and we're going to make another line like this, and then we're going to shade inside that line going towards the outer part of the hourglass. So it's like we're kind of making a shaded line. And if you need to like remake the outside line darker, you can. Mine got a little fuzzy, so I'm making it a little darker, retracing it, I should say. And then you're going to hop on over to the left side up at the top, and you're going to make a darker line like this. And then make a little bit of dark shading next to it, like that. And then we're going to stay on this left side for now, and we're going to make some darker shading, but it's kind of like medium dark shading. And we're going to go into the glass with this shading, and we're going to make sort of a round curve as we're shading toward the bottom. And then we're going to, in this whole section, we're just going to really lightly make some quick shaded strokes in between in the white part, like that. And then our last part inside here is just at this top part, we're going to make a line like this and then shade inside it. And now we're going to finish these two sides and the base. So we already have some shading here on the left side, but now we're going to add some darker shading. So we're going to start here on the left side. And on this first part here, we're going to shade dark at the bottom. And then on the right side, but we leave a little space for the white of the paper. So I'm going to go really close so you can see that. So see, kind of shade like a curve, but you see a little sliver of white. And then we're going to recopy over this section that we created with shading, and we're going to make it darker using this pencil. So not black, just darker gray, but it's going to get really dark toward the middle and on the right side of that shaded area. And then the rest of it, you lightly shade the side. This next part, shade on top of what we shaded. You go a little darker. And then on the oval, you're going to shade just slightly dark, but not as dark as in the middle. Now this long part is sort of a gradient where we're shading in the middle, and we shade like a medium gray, and then it's going to get darker until we reach the bottom portion of it. And then we're going to get a little bit darker again on top of the two shaded areas that we did earlier. And then we're going to switch to the other side. And we're going to repeat that whole process. So coming up here, we shade a little darker in two of these sections on top of the shading we already did. But then we're going to come to the left here in the white area and just shade a little bit, just on the top one here. So these sections are different than the other side. There's more dark in here. So we make sort of like a side triangle of dark on this one. And we follow it down. And then we do sort of a curve of dark on this side. And then we're going to leave some white space again. And we shade pretty dark, but again, not black. And we shade in the middle, and we kind of make this sort of bulbous shape. And that goes down to the bottom. And then this next section, we're going to go lightly in an oval with some medium shading. And then come in the middle for some curved, a little bit darker shading. Now here on this one, we do the same thing where we kind of hug up against the side as we shade downward, making kind of a shaded line. And then we're going to skip some space, and we're going to kind of make a rectangle of shading at the top. And then we make another shape where it follows, kind of follows the shape of the curving, but we want to leave white space on either side. And so we sort of draw that shape and then fill it in with shading. And it's like a dark gray. And when we get to these last two ones, we kind of make, again, sort of like shapes like this that we fill in with some shading, and it's darker shading. And then we go around on either side with some shading. Oops. And then we finally have our base, which is our last piece of this. And that base, there's going to be a shadow right underneath this part. And so we start to make a curve, and we're going to shade kind of in a um, sort of an oval shape. And it's going to extend out toward the two shapes over here. So it's going to kind of look a little bit like this. And it gets lighter as it comes toward us. And then remember the sort of smile shape. We're going to shade on that pretty dark. And then coming up towards us, we have sort of some shaded shapes like this that kind of go out to the front part. And then we shade around this right side here in this corner, shade a little bit dark, but we get a little lighter as we go toward the back. And you can re-outline this if you need to. And then on the left side in the front, we want to do some darker shading on the corner here where it's kind of turning, like so. And then kind of medium shading in the front with some light shading in the back. And then we have some shading under the last part here. A little bit of shading. You can make this last part darker underneath the hourglass, kind of like re-outlining it. But I'm so interested to see what everyone's looks like. So I'm going to remove my spotlight and I'm going to stop the recording. Oops.